More than 3,000 high-level banking, governmental, and international personalities are currently participating in the ongoing annual African Export-Import Bank meetings in Cairo, Egypt. The four-day meetings will witness the holding of 30 plenary and main sessions in addition to 2 exhibitions on the main programs and initiatives to support the growth of small and medium-sized enterprises within the framework of Africa Free Trade Agreement and the main programs and initiatives of the African Export-Import Bank, which aims to accelerate the process of diversifying African trade. The meetings will discuss a number of main topics, foremost of which is activating the potential of the African Continental Free Trade Area in the post-COVID-19 stage by benefiting from the energies of youth, as well as the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, as a way to transform towards changing the future of economic integration on the continent and ways to empower African youth and benefit from their creative energies in achieving economic transformation. Joining me from Egypt to look at this and, of course, other issues, particularly investment in the aviation space. Yes, he's the managing partner at Aglo Aviation Solutions Services Limited, Mr. Tayo Ojuri. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you join us from the other side.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start with the meetings in general. I know a lot has been discussed, but for you, what are your takeouts? I know that at the IATF sometime last year, AfCFTA was also the focus. What angle are we looking at with regards to this annual meetings by AfreximBank in Egypt?
It's two-pronged for me. For one assessment is actually this is the best time to actually have this meeting because on the first day, the first review by Professor Spence, a Nobel laureate, actually gave a very damning economic analysis of what we expect for the rest of the year. And with a lot of headwinds that we're expecting due to the Ukraine war and other volatility due to Forex, volatility due to high inflation rates, we see that the way forward is actually to improve the inter and intra-African market. And so we actually see there's a global recession coming up, but for us, what we need to do is actually try to improve the opportunities within the 1.3 billion people within Africa so we can actually uphold and strengthen that block to actually be a very strong economic force, because we've seen this actually happen within Europe. And so if we actually replicate this within Africa, we think that's going to be a better opportunity in years to come. And there's no better time to do that but now.
Give me a minute and we'll continue this discussion. A commercial break. We'll be right back.
The internet at home disconnects me, but that's a thing of the past. Today, I found the great solution. With Connect, I can get internet from space. It's super fast satellite internet from Connect. It's great. I can get internet everywhere. It's super simple and super fast. It's Connect. Broadband up to 100 megabits per second. All this from 6,900 naira per month. Isn't it great? Go to connect.com.
Well, thank you very much for staying with us. Mr. Tayo Ojuri is still live from Egypt. Now, let me follow up with the issue of Africa and trading between each other. We always talk about this, taking advantage of our population. What really is the challenge?
A good thing you did mention that it was actually highlighted. There's a policy issue, there's a visa, there's lots of infrastructural issues. We did identify, it was identified by most of the speakers, that 70% of the transactions in Africa is done by road, but the road infrastructure it's actually not been optimized. There was focus on the Lagos-Abidjan road. There's a focus on infrastructure, which comes to bear for me, and a major focus for me in the aviation sector, infrastructure for being able to move lots of goods across Africa with aircrafts and airplanes. So we've been able to move cargo across Africa without limit, without hindrances. So we're looking at the infrastructure, we're looking at the policies, we're looking at the visa requirements, we're looking at all these hindrances And we see that the way forward is being able to actually address these issues so we can move forward and increase the rates of transactions from about 2.8 billion to about further to more than that in the next few years.
And let's now stay with the aviation sector. What particular interests are we having with each other, talking about Africa, linking up Africa seamlessly? What is happening and what sort of investments are you also seeing ahead of you?
It's a known fact that actually, let's focus on sub-Saharan Africa. It's a known fact that for you to go to Mali, to go to Chad or Sudan or anywhere within West Africa, you have to actually go to Europe. And that still is an issue. So what we need to do is actually have infrastructure and actually funding as well. It's not just about the infrastructure. We actually need the funding. And we've seen AfreximBank in the last 5 years actually being able to give funding to SMEs and African companies up to the tune of $35 billion. So with that funding, we're looking at positioning ourselves strategically and technically to be able to take advantage of that funding. So we'll be able to actually have operations within West Africa because we're looking at 600 million people and 70% of that 600 people are youth. The focus of this conference is about the youth. So you end up say 70% of the Africans are youth. So we have to actually tap into the opportunities and sustainability of creativity, of development, of employability for the youth. So we see that these opportunities are what we need to take advantage now in forms of funding, in forms of infrastructure, so that in years to come, will not just be a continent that's waiting for aid, but a continent that's actually developing its people.
We're getting support from like the AfreximBank, Export-Import Bank. We also see what's happening in-house, like the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. All of this is to promote exports. You're in the aviation space. Do you think that Nigeria is there yet when we have to talk about exporting raw materials or finished goods from our space abroad?
We're not there yet, but we're not where we used to be because last Thursday, the central bank had actually had a conference at a hotel whereby its emphasis on the non-export produce. And as well, we have the Nigerian Export NEPC, Export Commission, where the focus is on agriculture and non-export produce. Emphasis is being done on this. How much of that have we actually been able to focus on that will move the needle? It's not much at the moment, but looking at numbers, what we had in the last 5-10 years, it's better than we have because we just had the ministerial committee that is actually focusing on making sure that the produce and what we actually are exporting meets with the export requirements of either Europe or North America or even Asia, because that's been a challenge. So once we start addressing those challenges and actually backward integration of actually producing goods that actually match international global best practices, we're able to actually ensure that we're going to see a growth in export over time.
Almost finally, our population is key. We talk about 1.3 billion people. What are we taking advantage of this population really across the African continent? Because many would tell you that Nigeria are more than 200 million people. No one wants to be kept behind or no one wants to be left behind, particularly as this strain for the AfCFTA continues to move as fast as it can.
We are not taking advantage of it because we're in almost mid-2022. What are the gaps there? Education is a big gap. Knowledge is a big gap. Science is a big gap. Technology is a big gap. It's not just one thing, it's tied within different things because when we talk about technology, we look at being accessibility to internet in the rural areas. You did mention that prior to us starting this conversation. So it's been able to access all these platforms so that we're actually competitive and sustainable, because it's not just about having the produce or product, it's about price competitiveness and sending things out of Africa. Because, for example, you have Asia that is actually trying to replicate, if not all that we have in Africa. So that's actually been a challenge, the competitiveness and being able to have the platforms that would make us actually be in line with best international practice.
Are you optimistic as we wrap up that this will not just be a talk shop? Because we are always having conferences and conferences, implementations of suggestions and recommendations from here. You think it will be taken very seriously?
It would be, because the reality is on our doorsteps. So we have the inflation at 17.7%, and the reality of the cost of goods, even the cost of living is really high. So people have to look for how to survive realistically and sustainably. So people have to actually, we're not going to continue doing things the same way we used to do it. So how do we move forward? We're going to look for opportunities of actually improving our imports, our export and revenue. And that's actually by backward integration and looking for the opportunities that actually are available within Nigeria and within Africa for us to export and for us to actually use within inter-African trade.
All right, there. I must thank you so much for your time. Despite your busy schedule, you were able to join us on the show. I appreciate this. I must thank you so much, Mr. Tayo Ojuri, who is the managing partner at Aglo Aviation Solution Services Limited. He joined us live from Egypt. Do enjoy the rest of your day and safe flight back here to Nigeria. We'll be expecting you.
Thank you. Have a great day.